welcome everybody. This is Matthew Gates with In the Building LA, your online source for news and information on the people, projects, and policies that are reshaping our community. I'm joined this morning by Dustin Young. Dustin is the co-founder of Our Own, a company whose mission is to build and strengthen community through life experiences. Our Own provides access and resources for mental, physical, emotional health. They have a number of initiatives ranging from mindfulness and meditation, financial literacy, foster youth intervention, internships. They even have a program called Keeping It Run 100 that encourages members to work out. So it's really a true mind, body, and spirit platform. So it's a pleasure to have Dustin on today. Good morning, brother. How are you?
Good morning, man. It's a pleasure to be here as well, man. Thank you.
Grateful for the opportunity to share your story. Before we get too deep into the amazing work that you're doing, let's just start by sharing a bit about yourself. What inspired you to launch Our Own?
Yeah, man. So I always wanted to kind of do something for our community. Just growing up with my family, my grandfather, pops, and grandma, like they was always into the community. They was always giving back. Even though my grandpa was a very strict individual, like he was this cold face, but always had a big heart. And I grew up on a block in Carson, California, where everybody, it was just like a communal effort. Everybody just kind of gave and took care of one another. So just having that energy instilled into me was just something like I wanted to like pursue. So as I got older, graduated from Cal State Northridge, I ended up moving to New York with the conversations and stuff I used to have with my grandfather about the Harlem Renaissance, Malcolm X, James Baldwin, Marcus Garvey. The spirits of them just kind of went through me. And this was one day I just was standing on a corner, 125th and Lenox, and I think it was like some Israelites talking on the corner, doing what they do, and something just hit me like, I ended up going to CVS, got a poster board, went home and started writing some ideas down, like on how I wanted to like kind of give back and what that actually looked like. Came up with the name that same day. I think I got the business registered on the same day and just kind of like started jotting ideas down in 2014. And just kept going. I come from like a mental health background, so working with foster youth, group homes, schools, families within inner cities. So when crafting out Our Own in itself, I know I wanted to focus on the mind, the body, and just this all around this mental health. And pretty much became my own case study, changed my lifestyle when it comes to eating and seeing how that actually brought more clarity to my mind and just able to take in more information. I started working out consistently. I started meditating, doing yoga, and just start seeing like my entire like overall health just improve. So I wanted to kind of bring that back to the community and in a fun way, because oftentimes initiatives and nonprofits will come in, but like, to the kids and the communities in our neighborhoods, it's not relatable. So figuring out how to always be ahead of the curve, be relatable and innovative as much as possible, but also connecting to the youth to listen and give them that voice.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make sense to have a really dope program if the audience is not receptive to it, right? And so it's that
Absolutely.
connection, which, there's a lot of well-meaning organizations and entities that want to do work, they want to impact change, but if you don't necessarily understand the communities that you're going into, right, it's really difficult to create that connection, because trust is the key to all of it, right? If you're going to tell me I need to change my diet, right, I'm literally going to stop eating all the things that I love.
Right.
I really got to trust you to, we have to build a rapport. And so.
And it takes time. I think a lot of people, I've learned how to be a very patient man, working with families or kids, whatever, like I could hit you with like, yo, you have to, when you get triggered, take 10 seconds to just breathe and de-escalate to refrain from your target behavior. I could say that over and over for a year and a half and won't see results until like year 2, But what that done for me is just like, you have to be consistent no matter what the program is. You have to keep hitting it with it, being consistent and ensuring that you're going to see it through, because oftentimes people come on for like a one-off. And it's like, it's kind of like a Band-Aid on a situation. I can't just give this child or this school a meditation event per se without having programming to follow up with that, because one kid's like, oh, this is cool. And then tomorrow's like, what we talked about yesterday? Right. So being consistent and just consistently like just showing up.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, and really what you focus on is, I guess, all of the complementary, or what they call nowadays wraparound services that any other like entity wants to provide, right? And so
Right.
what I found really dope about our own is not only the breadth of services that y'all offer, like I mentioned earlier, you play in so many different spaces related to the whole human, right, and the whole person, but you do it with such high quality, with such
Thank you.
intention, and such it's well thought out, it's innovative, and it's really impactful programming. And then secondly, something that resonates with me, and anybody who knows me knows that I always view economics as the missing leg of social justice. Is not really often focused on when we talk about education, we talk about law, but we never, to me, economics is the core. And
Absolutely.
that's at the center of your business model, right? You focus on that as a key driver of sustainable change.
Absolutely.
What brought you to that place? Why was that such
Ah,
an integral part of what you wanted to build?
well, man, when you have constantly being, as a kid, Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, being tossed in your head, and ownership and economics and power, and you just start focusing on these things, and then come across Dr. Claude Anderson and other master teachers, and you start reading Powernomics, and Powernomics essentially is like kind of all of our own, with
Yep.
different things tapped in inside of it. Um,
Vertical integration, right?
Absolutely, man. Because when it comes to like the youth we're working with, I know my dad did a great job, as best as he can, to provide as much information, knowledge as possible. But if I would have known, like we always say, if I would have known what I know now at 16, 17 years old, I would have made different decisions. Re- Refrain from getting into credit card debt and spending all my money I would make on meaningless things versus actually building something of our own, pun intended, to kind of like create this system. So like how I see it is economics at the end of the day, we know we need it. We live in a capitalist society. We live in America where this is what's part of us. So we have to figure out how can we as a group of people bring our resources, our talents, and everything together and build. Like, and this is why like our own too is not in competition with no one else. It's essentially built and formed to bring everybody involved to kind of like create and just kind of go here. Because I'm not a thought leader in every space, but I know my mans knows how to do, how to know how to break down financial literacy in a way that I can't. I know this person knows how to do yoga, to get the mind right and the body right. So bringing all these people together and figuring out how to circulate the dollars amongst one another
Yes.
and show this program to show how it works before we can actually expand it out to make it a bigger thing. So every event I do, I focus on paying our Black people, like videographer,
Yep.
photographer, talent, and I don't ask for free. Like I know y'all are willing to probably assist and help, but whatever dollars I do have, like let me just pay you and give me your price, and I can let you know if I can afford it,
Right.
because I want to show how we're able to grow as a people and remove that stereotype that we can't work with one another. That's the frustrating part. So
Yeah.
I've been able to do it, and with the kids I'm working with, showing them that stuff now, teaching them how to build a business, how to SEO, internship pipeline opportunities that we have going on, to where like now they're learning and growing and being exposed to things at a younger age to kind of cut that time in half. So yeah, vertical integration, everything, Powernomics, the 5 pillars, man, I just try to focus on that while creating everything that I do within it.
Yeah. And really what it comes down to is using the social capital that you have, using the resources that are around you, right? We all know dope people who have different skill sets, right? And so
Absolutely.
uh, by finding ways that you can work together, that you can fund them through your operations, what ends up happening is not only are you circulating dollars, but you're really bringing in best in class kind of work, right? And that's what shows to me when I look at your content. The video series that you do, we'll talk about the Boat 2020 campaign and some of the other stuff, but it shows in the finished product the quality, because these are individual entrepreneurs themselves who are best in class and really focused on putting out a great representation of their work and their artistry and their genius, right? So I want to talk a little bit about some of the initiatives that you're doing. The first one that really stood out, and this is, I want to say this is how I came across the business in the first place, was right around the beginning of COVID 20 million people out of work, 17% unemployment. In LA, 800,000 people unemployed between February and March. And so you run a food program. It's called Seed and Soil. You've provided over 20,000 meals, as well as distributed 10,000 PPE items to hospitals, community clinics, assisted living facilities, and other community organizations. Could you speak a little bit about that, how that started, and what you've been able to accomplish with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So when starting our own, one of the things I want to focus on first was like the gut, essentially, because with me personally, like what I put into my body, I was able to see like a good results from it. So Seed and Soil was like the first initiative in 2016. I started fundraising for to figure out how to bring education, fresh organic produce to neighborhoods that are considered like food deserts. You know, places where it's like miles and miles away from like a fresh food, grocery store, healthy options.
Sure.
So I wanted to create that, but I know I was like, I'm not gonna be able to raise enough money for a grocery store. The brick and mortar situation is not gonna be beneficial for me right now. I need to be mobile. How can I get to these different communities? So I decided to like purchase like a 45-foot transit bus that I was able to gut out, turn into like this mobile market. Like you said before, like, you know, when it comes to content and everything, like I like aesthetics, but I also like experiences that make me feel good. And oftentimes, you know, when it comes to our community, we deserve great experiences as well, and we can also create them. So, you know, once I actually created the buzz, I pull up to like, you know, different parts of Compton, Wise, South Central. I will have, you know, members of the community walk on so they could buy their kales, their yams, collard greens, cilantro, tomatoes, bell peppers. But the most important thing is the education component. I was able to give out recipes for these things that you use. I'm not trying to force my lifestyle on nobody, but here's some information. How do you increase your fruit and veggie intake to help with your overall health? So taking that concept, you know, it lasts, I was able to do it for like 3 or 4 months before, you know, driving a bus and teaching yourself how to drive a bus and the maintenance on it, it's a lot, man. And the engine officially blew up on me. Uh, and and it was you know, it was the first idea, first concept.
Yeah.
And I felt it was coming, but I like to finish the race.
Mm-hmm.
It's a problem with mine. I just like to finish it. And I
Not a problem. That's a strength.
yeah, and and I was able to get it, you know, it lasted 3 or 4 months. So at least I was able to show it and get it out there, but the concept was still there. So I still continued. It was just framed up different. But when COVID happened, me personally, just knowing what our underlying issues are, hypertension, diabetes, heart disease, preventable illnesses that we can by actually incorporating like a healthier diet, I talked to my business partner, Lee, like, all right, let's just figure out how to bring back Seed and Soul on a larger scale. It started off really just hitting the kids part of our Be Right Back program and just making sure their families were, you know, intact, because a lot of jobs, like you said, were lost. Paychecks stopped immediately. Unemployment wasn't kicking in for like, you know, weeks or months at a time. And food was one of the things that like, okay, we could provide this. And also understanding that a lot of the families that we know don't have the transportation to probably either get to a location or a food bank or whatever, and then stand in this line to like get eggs and milk, you know. So I'm like, all right, here's the system. Let's create it. Let's buy fresh produce from farmers. Um, let's package it up, and then let's just deliver it to the address of the families that we know. Then that started growing, start partnering with the city of Compton, city of Long Beach, school districts, and we was able to deliver directly to families' homes in a very social distance way. And then we just started seeing the response. It was just like, oh, I'm getting emails and letters in the mail because my address came up. I was like, oh, it's a huge thank you. Like, appreciate it. I haven't had fresh produce like this, but really thank you for the recipe options, because sometimes I don't know what to do with butternut squash. I don't know what to do with this. So yeah, that was like essentially like the Seed and Soil process. And we did it for a long time, which got the connections with the PPE equipment, because we started working with this other company called Via Clover to distribute these masks and face shields through local health clinics that weren't getting this equipment that they needed, you know. And it's like, okay, our government, why is this a problem? Like, me and my partner talk all the time, like, our own should not exist in certain issues. Like we should not have to, like we shouldn't be here. There should be programs in place on a large scale that takes care of this. But large clinics, large hospitals did not have the proper stuff. So we did our job as much as we can to provide.
But
And that
I
was
think that's, but you said something, or as you're explaining the story, right? It's that you started off with a purpose, right?
yes,
You had
yes,
an idea.
yes,
And if to connect what you're going through to like what we see, because everybody's kind of familiar with, let's say, Amazon
yeah,
or
correct.
uh, the impact that the COVID had on Netflix, or companies that were kind of built for the future and ended up being ideally positioned to take advantage of the environment that came about because of the shutdown, right?
Right,
So
correct.
because of that, now stock is through the roof, and they've tripled in value, and all of this stuff.
Right.
And so I think it's important when, again, talking to our entrepreneurs and folks in our community, that just create the thing that you have in your mind.
Yeah,
What ends up being the ultimate application of that, when it takes off, why it takes off, why it becomes more needed or whatever, like the universe will take care of that for you.
absolutely.
If you're doing good work and it's quality work and you're adding value in a service that the community needs, just keep doing that. At some point in time, it will bear fruit.
I agree with that 100%.
And you mentioned the Be Right Back program. I think this is the second year. I could be wrong, but the idea originally this summer was to take the kids to Egypt.
Correct.
Um, and obviously, COVID had other plans, and that gets postponed. Can you talk about a little bit about the program, how it's adapted to kind of in this environment, and what the future plans, what the intent is for the Be Right Back program?
Absolutely. This is my baby. So if I get a little winded, and going off, like please stop me.
Preach.
uh always big on travel, man. Like I was introduced to travel in 2008 with my aunt, traveler of the family. She got married in Turks and Caicos, and it kind of like this blew my mind. So I'm like, all right, 2016, I went to Cuba
Mm,
uh, with some friends, and it was like my first time doing a group trip because I really don't do group trips because it's kind of hard to have everybody on the same page, and I travel different. But this was like part of the best group I could have been a part of because we was all on the same page, just having these ideas, and we're just talking one night. I was like, hey, what if we just actually brought this to kids and was able to create a program to bring kids out the country, but shape something around that as a whole program. So we just started throwing ideas. And I'm a type of person, like you mentioned, like idea comes, I like to execute and I like to go and then I like to finish. So it's hard for me to come up with something that I think is good without completing it. So fast forward, we start breaking down what that program looks like. I'm like, well, I know I want to teach financial literacy. I know I want to create a wellness program, a component, a part of this. I want to teach culture, language, and this experiences within Los Angeles that takes kids outside of their bubble. Like I said before, I know what going to Turks and Caicos did to my mindset. It had me just thinking different. It had me exploring more and understand the world is bigger than my neighborhood or my community or my home. So connected with Dorsey High School was where we worked with the first program. And this first time around, we did this young man. Had a 12, 16-week program where we had people that looked like them talk about financial literacy, introduce the kids to wellness, meditation, weekly meditation, had language components to focus on the Cuba Spanish and the history of Cuba so they could go and actually develop their own perspective when they get to the land.
right.
All that in itself was just like magical, man. Like we purchased passports for the kids and we took them on a trip to Cuba last year. What they got from it was just something that's dope. So we wanted to continue that and incorporate young women as well this year, and we raised funds for it, and we was gonna start and go to Egypt. But yeah, COVID kind of shifted that, but which allowed us to continue our program and adapt. Well, it was still education, it was still financial literacy, it was still all these different components, and we could still do it in a way that makes sense. But also the ultimate goal and the scalable goal of the program was to get kids into different industries and understanding them. So like for example, one of the experiences we did within the first program, we went to Nike Los Angeles and we focused on obviously this resume building and interview process. But one of the main things that we took away from it was having the kids understand different departments at Nike that shapes this entire brand. It's not just the athlete and the sneakers, it's like the marketing department, sales, it's social impact. So that started getting people's attendance going, the young kids. So like, yo, so you saying I can actually get into advertising and marketing? Yes, you can. This is how you could do it. And let's figure out how to create the pipeline now from high school to program to internship to careers or to entrepreneurship, and
Yeah.
which is how we pivoted now. So we have two internships programs starting next week, and then we have one starting at the top of the year. So the first two is with advertising and marketing firm, and then we have the one on the top of the year is a fabrication and build company, and that one's for young women to kind of increase the women in the field, but Black women in the industry as well, around development, architecture, and sketch design and fabrication.
Yeah, when we talked about that one on the phone, kind of in the prep interview, that's the one that
That hit home.
bro. It was music to my ears because there's such a shortage, not only just of us in general in architecture, in real estate, in development, but then compound that another layer. You're talking about young Black women, right?
Yeah,
So introducing these ideas, possible career paths to people early, so it's more than just what you see on TV: a doctor, a lawyer, a police, a fire,
absolutely.
right? That you have. There are literally infinite ways that you can make money in this society.
And with all this access we have to this information, it's still crazy how it's still hard to even get to it. It's like
It's more
you
there.
can't fathom the idea or the thought, like, let me Google how to get into fabrication design,
Yeah.
because it's not a thought.
But
You know,
you still have to have the change agent, you know,
yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Because while yeah, I got a 14-year-old, right, and yes, the information that they have access to compared to when I was 14, like it's not even like we're not even playing the same game, right? But at the same time, the distraction that they have access to, right?
Right, absolutely.
It still requires a change agent like yourself or other organizations, other entities to really sit down, captivate the mind, and show folks, hey, you know what? You actually, as a young Black girl at 13, you can actually build a structure. You can actually be a part of conversations about taking ownership of the Baldwin Hills Mall, right? Or
Right.
uh, how gentrification occurs and how you can be proactive and carve out a career of really protecting Black spaces, right? And just it doesn't land with everybody, right? But it lands with a lot and a lot more if we actually put that in front of them. So yeah, I'm so excited about that program. I'm gonna come in. I'm a spy on that one.
Yeah, that was gonna be great, man. We already started planning the curriculum now, so we're thinking it's gonna start probably like January, like maybe second, third week of January.
Awesome, awesome.
So
Yeah, and that's really what this platform, what I wanted to create, is a space for that kind of dialogue. It's what the work that you're doing is creating a space for dialogue, a space for education, a space for folks to really tap in to the, again, I keep driving back to it, the whole human, man. You focus on mind, body, spirit. You do it at a very high level. And I haven't seen a lot of organizations that have been around for 40 years who execute the way that you execute, and you've been
oh
around.
man, I appreciate that, man, because if you see how I be pulling whatever little hair I have on my head off.
But the trade-off is going to be well worth it. I can
I
guarantee.
agree. I agree. Cause like me and my business partner, we talk about this a lot. Like Lee and I, it's me and him that does majority of the day to day. We have two other people, Nisa and Rihanna, that really helps us on the back end. But when it comes to like all of what you saw, like I appreciate the compliment on like just the content in itself, because the visual album we shot and edited and lighting and sound and stage and all that stuff ourselves. It's me and my business partner Lee. And we did it all within 2 days. It was literally an idea. The next day, got the people. The next day, booked the location and start renting these cameras. Spend like a day on YouTube figuring out how to use this particular camera that we rented. You know, like that was new for me. But it's just learning these things that is helpful. But it's also like this. A lot of times people just see the finished product and the process is always overlooked. moving forward, I want to highlight more of the process, not just us, but other entrepreneurs in the process, because it takes a lot, man. Like the bus almost took me out. uh, Getting kids to Cuba is not no easy task. Getting passports is not an easy task. We didn't get one passport until the day before we went to Cuba. You know, it's so much running around and the amount of time that, effort to like build this brand and work with like, our people to like make sure we're all on the same page. It's taxing, but is great results at the end. And that's what I will continue to do it for. It is my purpose, it is my passion. And it's the lane that I chose. I understand what my North Star is, and I will continue walking the path to get there.
That's the entrepreneurial journey, man. And
Yeah.
not everybody is cut out for it, but you have to have the right mindset where adversity really just becomes opportunities to learn and improve as an entrepreneur through experience, right? And you got it, brother. You got it, and it shows, man. And so for folks who are interested in supporting, or
Yes.
folks who are interested in just getting more information about Our Own, how would they find you?
Yeah, so you could check our website at www.ourown.life, or you could go to our Instagram page at ourown.life, as well as Facebook. On those platforms, you'll be able to find pretty much everything that we do. You'll be able to donate to continue to help our cause and growing the impact that we have in our community. And then just follow the journey, because one of the things my partner Lee, he points out, like since March, we have produced 47 pieces of content
Wow.
up to date, which is a lot during this time. And but it's been able to like really amplify and tell our story
Yep.
in a way, and we'll just continue to do more of that. Um, when it comes to our programs, we are scaling them. Like I said, the Be Right Back program is scaling into more of a learning pipeline to entrepreneur internship opportunities, and then career paths as well. But also, like we're planning on, like we was talking about before, is scaling that program up even bigger around the real estate component. We'll talk more, or I invite you more into that conversation once we get to that point. On the health side, my boy Butter, he still has, keep it around 100. So like, that's an initiative under Our Own, which brings a lot of inner city folks just around like this, understand how to like run, focus on your heart, health, exercise. And then also like, something that wasn't mentioned, like I am a certified doula now. It's something that I actually did during this time, but like last year I helped deliver the laboring process and help with my little sister um, deliver my nephew. So one of the things also when it comes, like I said, focus on whole body is still learning, understanding what Black women go through and why they're dying in alarming numbers around like childbirth, and figuring out like problem solutions. So like, okay, well, let me do my part by educating myself and diving a little bit more into the woman's body and how we could, as men, support more. Because I feel like I know some things, but after taking a few classes, and I don't know shit. Excuse my language. So
Right.
um, just want to do my part to like keep our sisters alive and make childbirth a little bit easier, and just providing that education and support, and educating more young men about when they do get the process of getting someone pregnant and going through that whole steps. It's like, this is how you can support, this is how you show up, and this is how you reduce the stress on a woman and have a better successful childbirth. So planning some more things around that on top of the year as well. So
Brother,
a
slow down,
lot of
man.
work.
You're making me reevaluate my whole life, man. I gotta step my game up, man.
Well,
This
iron
so,
sharpens, steel sharpens steel, or is it iron sharpens iron? What's the saying?
well, iron
Steel.
sharpens iron. Either way,
Yeah.
you get the point, right? So for those of you out there, and I know you're watching, for those of you out there who have access to corporate dollars, this is the kind of organization that you want to partner with. They will not let you down. They will be a gold star or a ribbon, a feather in your cap, and it's an investment well worthwhile here locally. So I would encourage those of you who have access to those sort of coffers like reach out. They're doing real work. Dustin,
Get
I
that.
appreciate it. It's a pleasure to have you. Once again, my name is Matthew Gates with In the Building LA, your online source for news and information on the people, projects, and policies that are reshaping our community. Until next time, we'll see you. Peace.